Well, I thank your minister for welcoming me. I know that they are new here, but you should know that they are one of the best, and you are very lucky to have them here. I know mostly of Amy's work from serving as one of the moderators of a rather large Facebook group of Unitarian Universalist ministers, which is mostly joyful but occasionally challenging because we are humans in that group. So you should know that you are very lucky. Are you paying attention? What do you pay attention to? When was the last time that you were caught by surprise and that surprise called you to pay attention and focus on the thing that was right in front of you? Several weeks ago, I was walking in the woods behind my apartment complex listening to some podcast. I was walking in my own little world. I walk these trails quite a few times a day. I don't yet know the exact distance, but I've grown to know the corners, the bends, the bridge that for some reason says it has a 5-ton weight limit, even though it's 1,000 yards from the road. I know the cutoffs if it's getting too cold. I've grown to notice the changing foliage. This day I'm out closer to sunrise, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something large moving, an owl flying from one perch to the other. Now, I've heard the owls hooting in these woods before, so in theory, I know that they are there. But still, I startled the owl, and it startled me. It was breathtaking. I could not help but be astonished. This is the kind of sight where you cannot help but go, wow. The kind of sight that makes your heart beat a little faster. It calls your attention to something outside of yourself. Something outside of yourself, and you pause and you are astonished. Later that day, I'm driving to work, and again, I'm in my own little world, not as much as before, mind you, because I am driving. And I see, out of the corner of my eye, a car in my own so-called blind spot of the car. Again, that kind of sight that makes your heart beat faster. But this is different because it makes me wonder, oh gosh, were there other dangers that I missed? What were the shocking things that I overlooked? I've been driving for a decade and a half or so, and I'm a pretty decent driver, a minor fender bender, and a smattering of speeding tickets, much like us all. Admittedly, the bar is very low when it comes to say that I'm a good driver, but over the years, I've learned, check your mirrors. But I'm always weary about that thing that will surprise me and cause me to wonder, what else did I miss? As I drive to my office, I remember all of the books that are on my bookshelf, books purchased as I was going to seminary at Andover Newton. The seminary's campus, now sold, was on the top of the textbook definition of the pastoral hill. The road or the sidewalk leading up the hill led you past several huge trees. And there was one tree that was unassuming, I'm going to say 3/4 of the year, or maybe even 50 seconds of the year. And then when the weather started getting colder and the biology in the leaves happens as it does, that unassuming tree turned a shocking goldenrod, that most beautiful yellow. And for just a few weeks of the year, and then it fades into the background, a short moment in the leaves' life that invites your attention to something you previously hadn't yet noticed, but that you look at every day. In my congregation in Lawrence, Kansas, we serve in a food kitchen every 2 months or so. We see people week after week or time after time. We've started to learn their names, and we're called to a deeper curiosity. Some of these folks I see in the public library or on the street corner. I'm called to wonder, what is this person's story? How did it get so that they are in line and I am serving food to them? What in our society means that some people go without while others have food and the ability to cook and serve others? Where have we failed? How are they doing today? This is the kind of attention that calls us to wonder more, that invites us to go deeper. Each one of these small vignettes highlights the various ways that we are called to attention of the world around us. I know this is a little bit of a look back at one of those previous Soul Matters themes of attention, but it works for resilience too. The surprise which calls your attention to the present moment. The surprise which makes you wonder, what have you been missing? And the surprise which brings your attention to the things you have seen time after time. The attention that calls you to further attention, to ask questions, and to be inquisitive of. What are the things that you pay attention to? Someone once said, I think it was the former president of my seminary, Nick Carter, not of boy band fame, but of American Baptist theology. He said that if you want to look at what a congregation values, don't look at its mission statement. Look at how the congregation spends its money. The budget is a statement of morals. Certainly, our own personal budgets are statements of values as well. I want to take that a step further. The great education reformers Nancy Faust Sizer and Theodore R. Sizer wrote in their 1990 book, The Students Are Watching, these words: "To find the core of a school, don't look at its rule book or even its mission statement. Look at the way people in it spend their time, how they relate to one another, how they tangle with ideas. Look for the contradictions between words and practice. With the fewer, the better. Try to estimate the frequency and the honesty of its deliberations, though it will always try to spruce up for visitors." We know that, right? Its hour-by-hour functioning is what is important. Judge the school not on what it says, but on how it keeps. This book at the time was groundbreaking because it said that students learn not just from the classrooms, but from the rituals that schools create. I'm not talking just about rituals like pep rally or morning assemblies, but the rituals of interaction, the way of being in the classroom. The Sizers were both school principals, but they spoke of that act of leading and administering schools, not with that language, but of the language of keeping school. When the Sizers write a little bit before that, is that the rules don't come out of books, but rather they come out of the relationships that people have with one another. They write, "In small and voluntary associations, shared norms emerge which make it unnecessary to devise elaborate sets of rules. The rules that come out of the environment, not the books. Those are the rules that last. The relationship between the needs of the community and individual freedom is not something arbitrarily imposed. It is rather arrived at through explanation, exploration, and persuasion." So let's take that another step further. How do we spend our time as a congregation? How do we treat one another? And yes, how we spend our money? That all ends up being a statement of our philosophy or belief. That is more powerful than a mission statement. That's about the quality of the community. But we know this, I think. So, to take it one step further, I believe that how we spend our times as individuals, how we spend our attention, the budget of our attention, if you will, is also a statement of our values. Attention is a unit of measurement of the things that we care about. Has anyone here ever sat down and written a personal mission statement? Anybody? Ever sat down and write down a list of personal values? I know this congregation has. I Saw on your website you have a list of wonderful congregational values: authenticity, acceptance, connection, wonder, generosity of spirit. But do you have that list as individuals? That's okay if you don't, because there would likely be a gap as to what your stated beliefs or ways of being in the world are and how you actually are. So what if you spent a few weeks studying your life, keeping track of the things you did, the quality of your conversations, the places where you spent your time, the people you hung out with? Sure, money you spent, food you ate, how you were at work or home, here, wherever your third place is. What would happen with this data? What would you gather? Well, first of all, you don't need to spend immense amounts of time doing it, maybe just some moments of mindfulness at the end of the day or journaling at night. What happens when you begin to pay attention? First of all, you must attach feeling to it. Mary Oliver's words seem clear about that. Watching M in the darkroom when she was taking photos and later developing them, and no less watching the intensity and openness with which she dealt with friends and strangers too, taught Mary Oliver what real attention is. Attention without feeling, I began to learn, is only a report. So with that list of places that got your attention, notice how you feel, because if you don't, it's just a report. When you pay attention to your life, how you spend your time, a few other things happen. First of all, we slow down, and that is a great thing. The other thing that happens is that you enter into a sense of connection or communion. Your paying attention becomes a sacrament. I should unpack those words a little bit, because we all carry definitions in our hearts. Those words in a Unitarian Universalist setting, as UU theologian Richard Grieg would say, is about the sacred is shown through the concrete, the infinite within the finite. I return to Barbara Brown Taylor's words. Anything can become a sacrament, by which I mean an outward and visible sign of an inward connection. They take time, but if you are paying attention, even that mail order catalog can become a sacrament. And that inspires connection. Now, if those words don't work for you, paying attention invites you into the interdependent web of existence. Paying attention, pausing for just a moment, invites you to be connected to the owl or eagle that has flown by, to the other cars on the road, to the tree that is brilliantly golden for a few weeks, or to the rolling Iowa hills in real life or in Grant Wood paintings, to the individuals and communities in your community that need help, or to lobbying in the halls of the General Assembly. We become connected. Perhaps this is also a way that you live into that congregational value of wonder, or that part of your mission statement where you experience wonder. What would emerge from all of this is a pretty good statement of your values, your way of being in the world. Attention is a unit of measurement about which we care about the things we care about in this world. And what you can measure, you can change. If after studying your life you realize that there is a gap between what you think you do and what you actually do, well, congratulations, human. You have time to change because you have paid attention, because you have a little bit more data. Another thing that might happen is you might fall in love. One of my favorite movies from the last couple of years is the Greta Gerwig movie Lady Bird. I think, covenantally obligated to say that this is one of my favorite movies. Gerwig is a Unitarian Universalist, and I feel the need to lift those artists up. I don't need to give a spoiler alert because there isn't much of a plot. It's just Lady Bird's life, her senior year in a Catholic high school in Sacramento. At one point, she meets with the school principal, Sister Sarah Joan, who, after reading her college application essay on Sacramento, remarks, You write about this city with such love, with such affection. Most of the movie has been about Lady Bird trying to escape Sacramento, wanting to leave it for the East Coast where there is culture, she says. So she's astonished when Sister Sarah Jones says that she has written with such love. Lady Bird responds, "I just paid attention." Sister Sarah Jones responds back, "Isn't that the same thing? Love and attention." If you pay attention, if you really stop and notice, you cannot help but fall in love with the world. Not the erotic sense, of course, but maybe a familial or friendly love. And that's what the world needs, a deeper sense of connection. And we gain that by paying attention. And so my friends gathered here, my friends who I haven't even met yet, as you leave this space, I invite you to pay attention to the things that caught you by surprise, the things which call you to focus, to pay attention to what caught you by surprise and then made you wonder what else you might have missed. Pay attention, and you might notice something again for the first time. Pay attention, focus on something intensely for study. Throughout the next week, make note of what you pay attention to. Dig deeper and consider, how does it reflect your deeply held values? Is there a difference between what you say you do and what you actually do? May it be so.